as we begin our class tonight, I want to do a little bit of an experiment, which hopefully will work, and hopefully will mean something to you when our class period is over. But in the materials for this lesson tonight, I was given this experiment, and we worked on it some this afternoon, and I think I finally got some materials where it will hopefully work. But in one bucket, I've got a finely granulated sand, okay? And in the other bucket, I've got some small gravel. I've also got some dirt and other sediment in with the gravel, but it was as close as I could get to something with a larger piece than the sand. And so I'm going to try to pour them in here simultaneously, and then we're going to give them the class period to settle, and then we'll look at them when the class period is over, and I'll explain to you what the experiment is supposed to show. But let me go ahead and pour these in here, and I'm going to try to pour them at the same time. Okay, now, what we're talking about this week is creation, digging for truth. And our topic tonight is creation versus evolution. Evolution is the enforced philosophy and teaching of our modern culture. In today's American culture, especially in the educational culture, but also in political culture, it is required dogma that people believe in evolution and disbelieve in sixth-day creation. And political candidates are frequently asked, and if you're running for Congress, if you're running for governor in some states, not most states, but in a lot of states, then it's not really a big deal if you believe in sixth-day creation. But if you're running for president of the United States, and you said that I believe in the creation account of Genesis 1 and 2, it would create a huge controversy. And it would bring a lot of criticism, and a lot of people would write a lot of things and say a lot of things on television about what a wackadoo you are and how untrustworthy you are to be president because you believe in some fantasy about where the world came from and reject all of this scientific knowledge that has been gathered for years and years and years and years. And I'm not exaggerating that a bit. I'm not making it up. I'm not making it sound worse than it is. It happens. And it is the culture in which we live. And yet, if you go to Genesis chapter 1, it's very clear how long creation took and how it came about. Verse 31 of Genesis chapter 1 says, God saw all that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. The Bible is unapologetic about creation, and it says that creation occurred in 6 days. And so that is the conflict. That is the competition. That's why we can entitle a lesson, Creation versus Evolution. Let's first of all talk about our terms. And let me say also that even though this subject and this subject matter really lends itself to a lecture type format because it is very specific information laden, feel free to interject, ask questions, raise your hands, give your own input in whatever form. I absolutely welcome that. But until you do that, I'm just going to keep talking. Evolution. Evolution is a theory which claims the universe is self-contained, which means that there is nothing greater than the universe, nothing outside the universe, nothing beyond the physical universe, the material universe, though material, physical, interchangeable. Evolution claims that everything in the universe came into being through random processes without any outside cause. Everything in the universe came about randomly with no cause outside the universe making it happen. That is evolution. Now, I don't want to go too far off base, and it's not really part of my presentation tonight to talk about the laws of thermodynamics. But the laws of thermodynamics say that in a closed system, things move from order to chaos, from usable energy to spent energy. It's one of the laws of thermodynamics. Evolutionists say, well, that's only in a closed system, and Earth is not a closed system. But evolution also requires that the universe be a closed system. And so, according to the laws of thermodynamics, evolution is impossible. But we're going to talk about a couple of other laws in more detail, which say the same thing. Evolution proclaims no supernatural being had any part in the origin or development of life, that all things originate through natural processes and nothing outside nature exists. That's one side. The other side, creation. Creation can be a generic term, and some people can use it in more than one way. But the way we're going to use it, and the way most people we come into contact use it, are in the terms of Genesis 1 and 2, specifically Genesis 1, which is the creation account of the Holy Scriptures. The creation says that the universe is not self-contained. It is the exact opposite of evolution. It says that there is a God who is greater, who is beyond, who transcends the universe, who created the heavens and the earth, Genesis 1:1, who caused the universe by supernatural, not natural means, or at least by means that are no longer taking place today. And you see that in Genesis 1:31. God saw all that he had made, and in chapter 2, verse 1, thus the heavens and the earth were completed, and all their hosts. After the sixth day, God stopped creating. He no longer was causing matter and light and other forms of energy to come into existence. It was complete. And so creation says the process of creation is not taking place today, and you cannot observe it today because it ceased on the sixth day after day one. Now, creation does not deny microevolution. Microevolution are small changes within one type of animal or one species of animals. Creation does not require that a person believe that people have always been exactly the same height or exactly the same color. Creation does not require people to believe that every bird of a certain type has always had exactly the same length beak. It doesn't require us to believe that every animal of a certain type has always had the same covering of hair, exactly the same form it has now. But creation does deny specifically macroevolution. And macroevolution is evolution on a large scale, which means one type of animal becoming a different type of animal. Creation says that's impossible, it's false, it's unnatural, and it would require supernatural power to make that happen. And that supernatural power is no longer being exercised in that way. Now let me be clear, and I tried to make this clear this morning, and I want to make it double clear tonight. At least one of these approaches has to be false. These two belief systems cannot both be true. Technically, I suppose they could both be false, but at least one of them has to be false. And a lot of people straddle that fence. A lot of people straddle that fence and try to say, well, I believe in evolution, but I also believe in creation. I believe that God worked through evolution and that Genesis is just an allegorical account of how creation took place over millions and millions of years. The Bible will not allow that approach to creation. The Bible specifically forecloses that approach. You know, Bob Coulter said to me he was almost 2 years old at the Scopes monkey trial. And I think this weekend they're celebrating one of the anniversaries of the Scopes monkey trial back in the 1920s. And his uncle buried William Jennings Bryan, took his body to Philadelphia or somewhere like that, wherever he died right after the trial in Dayton, and his uncle took the body up north where he was to be buried. And then they created that, they wrote the play, Inherit the Wind, about that trial. And the big moment in the play was when the lawyer got the witness to admit, he put the other lawyer on the stand and got the other lawyer to say, well, that day in Genesis 1 could have been more than 24 hours. That's before man was even created. And, that day could have been 25 hours, or 30 hours, or 30 years, or 10 years, or 10,000 years, or 10 million years. I don't remember exactly the quote, but that was the idea that was really the climax of the movie. But I want you to look at Exodus chapter 20 with me. Exodus chapter 20 is God himself speaking to Moses. God has led the Israelites out of Egypt, and he is now giving instruction and details directly to Moses. He's talking to men after men have been alive for at least a few thousand years, a couple or 3,000 years. And he's giving the commandments in Exodus chapter 20 on Mount Sinai. And in verse 11, this is what God Almighty says face to face to a human being in human language. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. It's ridiculous to say that the day talked about in Genesis 1 doesn't necessarily mean the same type of day we have today, because the sun didn't even exist yet. If God's talking our language, God knows how to communicate to us. But when you come forward 3,000 years and there are now millions of people on the earth, and God is talking to a man face to face, and he's using that man's native language, and he tells that man, I made the earth in 6 days, he means 6 literal 24-hour days. And there is no wiggle room in this. You have got to pick a side. It is either 6 billion years or 6 days. There is no in between. There is no in between. But there is evidence to help you pick a side. There is evidence to show us which one is more likely. There's even evidence to show us which one is completely and demonstrably impossible. And I want us to think about that for just a few minutes tonight.